So I'm curious what exactly mic issue people are having. It's sort of interesting. We are going to get into the draft here, though. It will be KIS versus HotsLady. Currently, HotsLady is 2-1 up over KIS. This is a best of 5, so this is match point for HotsLady. If they win this game, this series will be over. And we're going to... It's important to note that it is loser's choice. So KIS opted for first pick, and HotsLady did pick the map, so they picked Sky Temple, which is not surprising because this is a very common map in the Chinese meta. If you're going to pick a map and you feel like you're the better team, you might as well pick the map that everyone has the most experience on. Zarya, first ban coming out, and I can only imagine that Tassadar is going to be the response. HotsLady would need to have a specific strategy to deal with Tassadar if they don't ban it right here, and I don't really see that happening.
Okay, thanks for keeping the plebs out there entertained. Okay, so 2-1 lead, HotsLady. We're playing on Sky Temple, just in case you just tuned in. And thank you, by the way, Cavalier, once again for just basically hopping in and being the substitute caster for Tetcher, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. It's a pleasure to cast with you, and I think we've been delivering a pretty entertaining first day of HGC China, at least I hope so. Alright, we get to see Malfoy now locked in on the side of KIS. Looks like they're playing it super standard and super normally almost European or NA style. We see Dehaka now being locked in. Dehaka considered to be one of the strongest heroes on Sky Temple you could possibly imagine, because he's good at holding temples all by himself while still managing to show up if his allies need him. Split soaking capabilities are super good as well. And Sky Temple is just a relatively large map in general if you compare it to Tomb of Spider Queen, which we just faced, for example. So Dehaka, I like it quite a bit. Also, that Dehaka first pick is quite European or NA almost. It remains to be seen whether KIS also wants to sort of take over on the global mobility train. If they want to go for a false set, for example. You normally tend to see a lot of false set on Sky Temple in general, because not only could he follow a Dehaka up very nicely, but also could he dominate those boss pits here in Sky Temple, which are very narrow and very tight in general.
Wow, this draft is just ticking right along. Teams seem to be really aware of what they want. We do see the Zera tool picked up along with Ragnaros and Twilight Dream. That is a beautiful wombo combo right from 10. And this is a map where if you can manage the early game correctly, you can actually extend that first temple phase long enough to get to 10. And then the second temple phase, you have 10. If you have some really good team fight at 10, you can use it to dominate that bottom temple phase and make sure you secure it. You can snowball the entire game, because once you're ahead on structures on Sky Temple in particular, all you have to do is sit on your lead. It's up to the enemy team to make something happen. Something like 67% of teams that win the bottom temple phase in the second temple phase of Sky Temple win the map. Right. That's a huge advantage to have in your favor, where all you have to do is, all we have to do is not make a mistake and we win. Seems good.
Now, yeah, when I see a Zeratul, sorry to interrupt you there, buddy, but when I see a Zeratul these days, there is an alarm bell ringing, and the alarm bell goes, Jaina, Jaina, Jaina. Is that something that we see in China at all? Because admittedly, China hasn't made any appearance just yet, but we see it in Europe. Team Dignitas is known for executing that kind of wombo combo. What about China here?
I've not seen Jaina played in China. Period. I don't think I've ever seen Jaina picked by a Chinese team.
Yeah. I mean, it could be something that KIS just basically unleashes here to surprise everyone, because it's unheard of in China, and they're a team that nobody would suspect it from. Let's see. Already though, the wombo combo potential is pretty good, even without a Jaina. Like, take a look at Malf. The roots as a follow-up on the VPs are really, really good. So is the Sulfuria Smash. So I think they don't necessarily need the Jaina, do they?
They don't need it, but this is the thing about having teams that haven't had a lot of broadcast matches. Their one major advantage is that you don't necessarily know what their drafts are like unless you've scrimmed against them specifically. Yeah. So maybe they're the Chinese team that plays Jaina. Maybe they have broader hero pools. Maybe they're willing to experiment a little bit more. I mean, we haven't seen a Nubrak at all, for instance, yet tonight. And
which is insane. I can't believe
it's absolutely insane. If there was a team that was willing to, in China, that was willing to explore other regions and sort of adopt the things that that work in those regions in terms of drafting, they could probably pull quite a few surprises against these Chinese teams who seem to be sort of stuck in their own meta that has no consideration at all for certain heroes. We've seen one Arthas, we've seen 0 Anubrax. We've seen a huge prioritization on Dahaka and Tyrael and Ragnaros as the frontliners, and then Zarya when she's not banned out. I think we've only seen one Murden today.
Yeah, once or twice.
As well, although we see it banned here. So, oh, wow.
Yeah!
That is something I did not expect.
My man, baby! Sorry, guys, if you're wondering, like, oh my god, Kendrick is so cringy. Why is he freaking out like that? But if you're a viewer of my stream, you know exactly that I'm 100% Alliance, baby. And I have a Varian portrait right behind me every time I stream. And I'm just a very, very happy man that we get to see my favorite baby boy.
Again, HotsLady picking up that Nazeebo. This is going to be an interesting game because Varian has used to, he really spikes at 10. He's almost not a real hero until 10, but it used to be that with Warbringer at 4, he started to have pick potential. So you could have follow-up CC and do things with him and start to secure picks, especially if you had a lot of burst damage. It's kind of like that with the slow, but if you have a displacement or some sort of movement ability, you can just get out of it.
Yeah.
And quite a few heroes on HotsLady's team do have those things. But the game of chicken they've set up between VP Sanctification is always fascinating to watch. Whoever uses their heroic first kind of loses in the game of chicken, because VP does, of course, completely negate Sanctification as a heroic. And generally speaking, if you draft Tyrael, you kind of need Sanctification for some reason. Although, this is China, and we've seen Judgment once tonight already.
Now, as much as I'm excited for Varian, we're going to have to take another look at KISS's lineup here. Varian is the only frontliner they really have because Ragnaros cannot be considered to be a tank. That alone is relatively questionable. Also, Varian's state as a whole is kind of debatable. He is no longer that godlike, lockdown tank that he used to be ever since Warbringer was nerfed and lost its stun effect. Now, there's a couple of Varian builds out there. Mostly, though, I still think that the Parian build is the one to go to. It is not really, it can actually get quite damage heavy. I actually remade my thought here. It can get quite damage heavy, and it makes you nigh unkillable. However, he struggles in the early game, Varian that is, and if you don't apply pressure against the Nazeebo, which HotsLady is once again relying on, you might actually pay the price later on. So do you think that their team comp is going to be strong enough in the early game to pressure the Nazeebo, Cavalier, or do you think that Varian pick was just nonsense?
I don't think the Varian pick was nonsense because he is a relatively strong pick tank post-10. The gap blizzard and taunt, he's just not as strong as he was in terms of securing kills, but he can absorb a lot more damage, especially with the shield wall talents, with that full parry build, and with the armor change, which is quite significant. This is the Proteus patch. So we do have, a lot of armor coming online for him. They have a little bit of early game weight there with the Ragnaros. My concern is that they don't really have a hero. Varian spikes at 10, but they don't really have a hero that spikes in the very, very late game. You can make an argument for Zeratul was sentenced to death, being able to do a lot of damage, but who's his target? Yeah. And we have Nazeebo, who will be very tanky. Karazim, who not only went Transcendence, but presumably will have Palm. They don't see how Zeratul kills anyone when he does hit that power spike, and then if he can't start winning the team fights for his team with either the Wombo combo or isolated picks because of his mobility, how do you not lose a 20?
I think KISS's battle plan for this game number 4 is to lock someone down and immediately follow up with all the burst damage that they can possibly muster. Like, they have Li Ming, they want to get those resets rolling, they have Ragnaros with a Sulfurious Smash, and they have Zeratul, who can also add his fair share of damage on an individual target. So, if that strategy doesn't work, though, if Tyrael gets in a good Sanctification, or Karazim gets a good Palm. By the way, Karazim, holy moly, what are you doing, good sir? No Iron Fists, instead wins for Transcendence. That is a talent I haven't seen. I'm not gonna exaggerate. At least 7 or 8 months. Especially not in competitive. I have no idea if that was a misclick, or if Chinese Karazims are just trying to reinvent the meta.
I think Chinese players are maybe trying to reinvent it. It kind of makes sense. You think about the fact that they don't really want to go for early game damage. They're just trying to get to 20, and they want to sustain in lane as much as possible. They want to make sure they can always be active on the map, because anytime you have to back or take too much damage, you potentially miss soak. You potentially miss an advantage to get a little bit further ahead on the map, keep your lanes pushed. So this may be like them declaring, we don't care about fighting in the early game at all. We're just gonna poke and heal and sustain in lane, and eventually 20 will happen, and then we'll win.
This is so unusual, and I would have actually been more confident in an inside Karazim build, because we have seen that for a very short period of time. The talent was reworked a couple of times, but Transcendence, especially if it's not like, you know, a map like Battlefield of Eternity, where the single target healing can get really crazy around the Immortal area when Karazim just keeps on auto-attacking. I mean, even now, like, he went for Air Ally as well against the Zeratul. Okay, so that's a little bit more understandable, but still, you lose so much damage mitigation from Earth Ally. I'm not sure if that's the way to go.
It's going to be a very, very slow game.
Oh, yeah.
I think the vision control in the very late game is going to prove to be really valuable, because the very, very late game, controlling vision means that that one pick doesn't happen, and you don't just snowball a loss off the back of it. If HotsLady plays passive and carefully, they have the better late game comp. They should absolutely win. They have the global, so they have the control of the lanes in that sense. And you can see it. They traded temples. They're willing to do that. They're going to grab their siege right here. They're going to push in with their siege. They're playing the map in a very typical, standard way, not going too far forward, not being overly aggressive, just literally passive across the board. And into a variant comp, they could be afford to be a little bit aggressive if they finally are here. They get to pick on the Malfurion. Yep. But like up until that siege invade, they were just super, super passive.
Yeah. I also like what Varian was doing here, Kite, excuse me. He was actually like holding on to his level 410 for a long period of time, so the enemies didn't really know what build or what playstyle he was going to go for. Can't really say it did them anything out of the ordinary, but it's a nice little twist to see that with some of the heroes that basically give away so much information on their playstyle, like Varian right now, you wanna try to be, you know, you don't want to be that predictable, so it's a nice little move there, but I think Kite might be in trouble now, taking so much damage already. And keep in mind, despite having a shield wall, poison effects will not get cleansed. So heroes like, let's say Gul'dan or Nazeebo, they get a lot of value against someone like Varian, who can continuously make himself invulnerable.
It's going to be a very difficult thing to deal with. Shield wall makes Varian amazingly tanky, especially with that live by the sword talent at 7.
He's going full parry.
Yeah, that. I almost wonder if we're going to see something absolutely crazy here. Like, the obvious pick here is taunt, and I expect to see taunt 100% of the time in this game. But sometimes China does things, and you're just like, this is China. They're just doing something a little bit different. It would not be completely out of the question to use VP as an isolation mechanic, so they don't really need the health boost.
And then you go Colossus Smash on that isolated target and burst it down. Oh my goodness. This is actually something that we could potentially be on the lookout for. I mean, we talked about this earlier. They have an absurd amount of burst damage with Li Ming and Ragnaros, so maybe a Colossus Smash variant is still possible. Just the ideal case scenario is, Cavalier just pointed out, isolating a single target, jumping only with a manly Warcry, Colossus Smash, and following up with a Li Ming burst and the Sulfurious Smash could work, and then you basically snowball in a team fight with Li Ming resets. It's really hard to pull off, and you really have to have like a best case scenario in order to get that done. Now we see Dehaka being jumped on using adaptation. He's safe for now, but in the process, KIS managed to get themselves a fort, however, at the price of not having temple control at all.
And they did lose 2 forts in exchange, so they're significantly behind the structure. Now, this is the point where HotsLady can literally just sit on their structure lead. Every time there's a double temple, they just need to trade. Every time there's a single temple, they will contest it or just go get boss for free if it's far enough away and KIS is not on the ball with their map control. And it's something they're going to have a little bit of a problem with, since they do lack a global and any real vision mechanic. Without a frontliner that has a good escape, it's a little bit harder to do this. That is pretty much why the Zeratul was a necessary pick here. They needed that stealth mechanic to be the mobile ward on the map that we normally see tanks filling in pro play. Nice pick here on the rotation, but 365 is going to be able to get away. Nice peel by Carlo. Again, always on the ball with his tank play. Carlo's been tanking really well tonight.
Carlo is definitely the man when it comes to peeling for his backline for sure. Now we see the Odin getting popped here. Varian in the thick of battle, in the heat of battle, using his W to stay alive for now, but Malfurion not looking too well anymore. In the meantime, Adaptation healed Dehaka for an absurd amount here, and we're getting 1, 2, 3 kills in favor of HotsLady. It is a massacre, an absolute massacre, and probably one of the worst locations to just lose a team fight like that, because it was literally next door to a boss, and HotsLady, they're going to pick it up, and with that hyper support Karazim, they don't have to worry about dropping too low at all. Like, this was an astonishingly good fight for HotsLady, not even having the 13 advantage. Pretty impressive here, if you ask me.
That was devastating. KIS is actually sort of the team that initiated that fight. Varian went in, but then got caught by the zombie wall. And it's so unfortunate when you have a melee frontliner who can literally do nothing about zombie wall. He can't even auto-attack them down very quickly. And he just has to sort of stand there and struggle, then get focused. He did pop shield wall to mitigate some of the damage, but it was
Look at that sweet air ally positioning too, like constantly dashing in and out, 365. Like, that is some funky mechanics right there.
He's just keeping his reflexes sharp and making sure that is something he can do. And we're going to see, again, the Dehaka power here, the double global. They're going to start securing both of these temples. And this is going to be at minimum top fort going down. They're going to start to do direct damage to individual keeps with these shots. He's trying to get the pick on the Tychus in the mid lane. And
you shall not pass!
That he gets stopped by the gate, unfortunately. And now a talented advantage for HotsLady. And again, they're not fighting. They're just sitting on their lead. KIS engaged in the game, and they took the fight when they thought they could win it. But they don't want to fight, even with this advantage. They're like, we have everything we want right now. There's no reason for us to even give you a chance to catch up.
Exactly. Like, you mentioned a very important point here, Cavalier. Like, HotsLady, they don't need to commit any risks. Like, they can just chill, remain calm and collected, and they can just take temple after temple after temple, and sooner or later the map mechanic is going to make sure that KIS won't have a base anymore. And already the bottom keep super damaged. One more boss or one more temple is going to take care of that for sure. And HotsLady, they're just playing this like super well. They're taking mercenary camps in the meantime while no temples are available, and it is now for KIS to finally catch up on 13. I don't want to recommend looking for another engagement against HotsLady until they are in level 13. Like, I know teamfighting is what KIS wants to do all the time. I know that's when they got the victory in level 2 because of it. But really, for this one time, they should be a little bit more patient. And they're not soaking low. They're always moving around as 4 and 5. It just seems to me that they're trying too hard to make it work.
I mean, and at this point, they kind of have to. I mean, they need to soak 13, but oh, nice dodge by Miracle here, but he's going to be forced to burn the DP just to get out alive, and as I say that, he dies, of course. That's really unfortunate. He burned DP just to make sure he lived. He didn't want to give up a kill. He didn't want to have his presence removed from the map when he is the biggest threat and the biggest safety net for his team, but he is gone. And HotsLady, this game looks completely one-sided. This is actually the most one-sided game I think we've seen in the series so far, which again makes it seem like HotsLady was sort of rusty. Maybe they hadn't warmed up completely, and KIS was very nervous.
And keep in mind that Sky Temple was also HotsLady's choice. It was their map choice. So you can almost tell that they knew exactly why they lost game 2 because of team fighting. So they chose a map. Oh my goodness, denied entirely. Dodging that Sulfur Smash was so huge for Ilias on the Dehaka. Now Sanctification, they are untouchable right now. Malfurion falls once again. They don't even need to like break any sweats. And Varian looks like he might be the next one to fall here. He has a shield wall to keep himself alive for a short period of time, but it is just not going to be enough. And back to the point I was saying earlier, it almost looks like HotsLady knew exactly why they lost game 2 and why they wanted to pick a map where you can basically just out-rotate and outplay your opponents by simply going for map mechanics over and over again.
Which makes it interesting that KIS is the team that picked this map.
Oh, were they? I thought it was HotsLady.
Was it? Because it was Malfurion. Oh no, you're right. It was HotsLady that picked this map. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Because I forgot. Okay, drafting order matters, guys. It helps you remember who picked what map. There's going to be bottom keep going down. Double temple phase here for HotsLady. They're going to dominate both of them again. That is at a minimum going to be middle keep going down if they do get both of these. Even if they get one and a half.
This is looking so rough. We all know that feeling from Hero League or Team League. Like when you're so far behind that in a normal procedure where you're just like passive until you balance out the talent disadvantage, you cannot win possibly. Like at this stage with 4 or 3 levels behind, you have to go for a Hail Mary team fight and hope to somehow win a team fight and maybe stabilize from there. So KIS is basically with their backs against the wall in this series. If they lose this game, they're the series is over. And they have to go for something, although it's going to be super hard to make it work.
I would say that normally the common wisdom here is you wait till 16, you fight 16 and 19, as long as you cannot fall more than the 3 levels behind, you're already behind. Yeah. But against the Nazebo, even if you won the 16-19 fight, they would be 20 at the end of it, and they would come back and they would kill you because you can't end with the forts up. So they need to fight now. They need to fight 14-17, which is an unusual position to be in where you have to fight 14-17 just to not die.
Just so easy. The Gargantuan standing on the platform, a beautiful sanctification to keep everyone in good shape. The Odin on top of it, and normally when you see an Odin go down, you have to disengage and wait until it's over. But of course, if you're in KISS's shoes, you can't afford to do that anymore. A beautiful Licky Sticky Ton against Li Ming. She's probably going to fall any moment here. Nope, gets away for now. HD, that is. Spiders over the wall. Nice little move here from KTY, but I think this is going to be it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a mighty boss pushing in. We got 5 members alive for HotsLadies, 5 ladies against 1 core. I think I know who's going to win that battle, but KIS, they put up a good show. They managed to win 1 game. That's definitely more than many people thought they would be able to do, and Cavalier, I think we can expect them to learn from these mistakes. We can maybe expect them to train harder than they did before, and I wouldn't say that KIS is just another farm pony. I think they can actually get a victory throughout HGC sign at some point.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see the level of the other amateur teams. Yeah, obviously,
especially against those.
Since KIS qualified, they must have beat those other teams, and at a minimum, they only lost to 1 of the other ones. So those teams are roughly on the same level as KIS. We can sort of infer that from the fact that they all made it in to HGC China.